G'day YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It's Turbo Tristan here, and in this episode we're going to go through and diagnose what went wrong at the track. So if you are a regular viewer and a subscriber, you would have seen the last video was me at the track. I had some overheating issues. Firstly, thanks to the Haltech, it protected the engine, but at the same time, I wasn't really worried about this motor blowing up because, you know, it's old and tired. The Haltech saved the motor, really. We had a setting in there that once the engine got to 100 degrees, it would go into a limp mode and only rev to 3,500 RPM. Which it did that after probably a warm-up lap, and then on the second lap, full speed down the straight, and it went into limp mode. I did a couple of laps to try and cool it down, went back into the pits, retired the car. The coolant was bubbling in the overflow, which I thought was weird. I checked the oil, I checked underneath the radiator cap for any kind of blown head gasket signs like milky oil. I checked the dipstick, there was no metal filings in the oil. The oil was still just a nice dirty black from the fuel. Nothing under the radiator cap, nothing in the top of the cylinder head. So everything looked good, no spun bearings, but cooked the coolant. I filled up the overflow bottle, let the car cool down, and then I went into the Haltech, checked all of the logs, saw that it got hot, checked the protection, and then raised from 100 to 110 degrees so I could still get 7,300 RPM rev limit up to 110 degrees Celsius. I thought that refilling the water and going out with a cool engine that I might be able to get a couple of good laps in. The car did feel great when it was running, when the temperature was low. In the last track day, I was flat out at 150 kilometers an hour with a standard non-boosted stock standard engine. Now I was pushing 195, probably close to 200 kilometers an hour down the straight, both the front and the back straight, which was awesome. The car felt great. My cheapo $60 tires still held up. The only real thing that let me down were the brakes. I was still able to pull up and stop and take all of the corners without any issue. They just weren't very confidence inspiring. You could feel the brake pedal fade away because the pads were overheating. So they're just some kind of a standard pad that came free with the car. I chucked them in because they were new. But what we're going to do today is we're going to start tearing down this. My thoughts are that I've blown the head gasket, not completely, just between the cylinder wall and the water jacket, because it seems to be drinking coolant or drinking water out of the radiator. I can't see any leaks out of the radiator. All of the hoses are fine, there's no leakage. It was pressurizing here and pumping steam and spitting coolant out. And under boost it seemed to be pretty sealed, and then off boost it was sort of just drinking the water. So I think I've blown a little bit of the head gasket away. What we're going to do first though is check the compression across all the cylinders, do a bit of troubleshooting. I don't want to throw a fresh engine in if there's a problem with the radiator or the coolant system or airflow or anything like that and just blow another head gasket. So start with a compression test, pull the rocker cover off, check all the top of the engine, and then I'm going to start to take the head off and all the rest of the accessories all around the engine. So firstly, do a compression test, number one. So doing a compression test is as easy as pulling out the spark plugs, disconnecting the distributor so it doesn't want to fire, take the plug out. You'll want to check the plugs if they're really clean and probably a bit white maybe. That will show you that there's an issue with the head gasket in that cylinder. Doesn't really smell fuely, which tells me that it's been cleaned by something, probably water or coolant. Take your trusty compression tester, screw that in all the way, set that down there. Now let's go crank the car a couple of times and see what we get. Alright, so that's up around 195 to 200 PSI, which is quite good. Actually impressive considering the age of the engine and the amount of boost it's been running. Definitely something going on there. It's very white. Doesn't really smell at all like fuel, which is a bad sign. Alright, well that's why I was having trouble screwing that in. The ring off the spark plug was still there. Take 2, cylinder 2. Hopefully it doesn't go flying again. Okay, very high. 210, 20, about 230 PSI in that one. Very, very high. So I've warmed the engine up, which I was instructed to do that by my good friend Stuart the mechanic, who has been a little bit of a sponsor of the channel since day one. So it's a warm engine. Don't know if that makes a difference. I'd assume it would. Everything's been heated up and expanded and nice and tight. And again, this one is very clean, doesn't smell like fuel, very white, which probably means maybe coolant or something's been in there. So I managed to get this washer out, which is on the bottom of every spark plug. It's a crush washer. Don't know why it got stuck there. 2 reasons I can think of is probably over tightening, which is my fault, and overheating, which is also my fault, maybe. So I got it out. Hopefully that's not going to happen again on the 4th one, but we'll do a compression test on cylinder number 3. Now this one was up to 240, so again, quite high. Drop that down. Oh, the washer came out on that one. Same thing, very clean on the tip, crusty white stuff. Let's see what the compression is. And again, about 240. So, same result, they were all even, except for the first one, which is what we had last time. Last time I did the compression test, I think it was cold. So, they were maxing at 210 and then 190. This one was at 230 or 225, and the rest were all 240. So, okay, seems to have compression. Take the rocker cover off, have a look inside. Actually, before we do the rocker cover, we'll check the catch can and the radiator. So the radiator is again pretty well empty. You can see it's sprayed out. It was actually leaking through here and spraying out here and then getting in the fan and going everywhere. The overflow bottle is empty as well, so I'll pull that out. There's been no leaks from any of the hoses, so there's still some water in there. But we'll keep going. Catch can time. Nice and clean. So you can hear there's not a lot in there. Let's tip it out and see what's in it. We've got this dirty oil pan. So not much, mostly water again, a little bit of oil. Definitely smells like E85, which is what it's supposed to do. So wasn't really breathing through there. Wonder where the water's getting to. That looks all right. Just dirty with oil, but otherwise pretty clean. Think you'll agree. So I've just taken a break off camera, removed the distributor. I turned the engine to top dead center. I checked it with a screwdriver to make sure it was at the highest possible point and all the timing marks all lined up. Removed the distributor, marked it on there where it was, and then I've transferred that onto the new engine. Hopefully it's right. If not, we'll just adjust it when we go to fire up the car. What I'm going to do now is just put on a time lapse, remove the intercooler piping, remove the injectors, and just start disconnecting some of these connectors. And we'll get ready to pull the rocker assembly out or the head out, and yeah, get ready to see what inside each of the cylinders looks like. Alright, so that's enough mucking around with the time lapse. I've gotten ahead of myself and started pulling things off. I did everything all in the wrong order. You're supposed to disconnect all of your electricals first, then all your water and coolant and all that sort of stuff, and get all that out, oils, etc. But I just started pulling things apart. It's my car, I'll do it whichever way I want. So I've got my 14mm, got my breaker bar. I'm going to start taking off the head. Oh, nice and strong. Tell you what, these are tight. And Murphy's Law, I've stripped a nut on the exhaust manifold, so it's all going to have to come off as one piece. So that's alright, I'll attack it later when it's off the car. Okay, so I think everything is undone now that needs to be undone. So I'm going to try and lift the head. It's going to be heavy AF because the turbo and the exhaust are still on there and all the oil and water lines, but let's see, whoops, if it'll lift off. Okay, take two with the pry bar. I'm just going to stick it under here and try and give it a little lift. Something's happening. Okay, wants to come. I knew I forgot something, the turbo oil drain. Okay, so remove the oil drain, see if it wants to come off now. One more fucking stud. That's what happens when everything's black. You can't tell the difference if there's a stud there or not. There we go. Take 45. There we go. So as you've just seen, I lifted the head off and oil went absolutely everywhere. So I took a short break and cleaned up and stained my concrete. I've pressure washed it, but I didn't get there quick enough. I'm gonna have to degrease that and really blast that later on. But the cylinder head is off. There was no visible signs of the head gasket blowing on the top or really on the bottom. You can see here there's a little bit of the black coloring is gone on a couple of the cylinders on different spots, but then it's also kind of here as well. So maybe that's just the paint or, you know, the coating on it peeling off, but it doesn't look like anything was really blown. So it's a bit of a mystery. You can see here there's like a little bit of bubbles on the coating. But yeah, very hard to diagnose, I reckon. Everything else looks pretty good. It could be warped. There's actually still heaps of coolant in there, even though I had to fill the radiator up with about, I don't know, 1.5 litres of water on Saturday. So again, I don't know. It's just a mystery. If anyone has any ideas, let me know in the comments. Over to the cylinder head. Again, it looks fine. It's pretty dirty because oil went everywhere. I don't know where. It was about 2 litres of oil just came spilling out of somewhere. Might have been in the turbo oil feed line, but I doubt it. It would have ran out when I disconnected the oil drain. It might have just been what was sitting in the top of the head, but yeah, it went everywhere. But the cylinder head looks good. A little bit of crusty stuff on the exhaust, the intake ports. No, what's that? The exhaust ports. Yeah, a little bit of crusty white stuff on the exhaust ports. I don't know what that means. If anyone has any idea, please share. I have no clue as to why this was sucking heaps of coolant at the track. The engine compression was fine, the oil was fine, the bearings are fine, there's no knocks, no rattles. There was water still in the block. No visible signs of blowing the head gasket. So it's a mystery. Do not know, but it was definitely overheating. There's no thermostat in there, so it couldn't have been that. There's a very small chance that the water pump fins might have deteriorated and not pushing the water around. I honestly can't say. It's time to get rid of this motor. I'm going to finish undoing all the electrical things, the starter motor, the alternator, try and clear out as much of that wiring as possible, get to work removing the brake booster and the clutch master, and then yeah, we're going to get to work painting the engine bay, or doing as best of a job as we can. All those lines there and wiring is going to be a mission to hide most of that. The headlight stuff can go around behind the guard. That shouldn't be too much of a drama. But the fuse box, I still need that. All of those wires over there for the Haltech, I still need those. Maybe I can unscrew that and just feed them through temporarily while I paint. But yeah, I've got my work cut out for me for the next few days. I was really hoping to have some answers as to why it was overheating and why the head gasket blew. The spark plugs don't look good. They're all covered in white stuff. The engine definitely cooked. It went over 110 degrees. It went right off the scale on the dial, past H. So there's definitely an issue somewhere. The radiator looks fine. It might be an issue with the radiator cap, just not holding pressure and pumping it out the bottle and out everywhere. But I don't know, if the water's still pumping through, it should still cool. Yeah, I really don't know. It's one of life's mysteries, unfortunately. I hope this one was a funny one. Nothing went to plan. I did everything in the worst possible order you could do it in. I was just stuffing around and pulling things apart. I've started switching things over to the new engine. The Wuhan war whistle seems to be in perfect order. There's no oil leaks on that. There's no shaft play. It's still basically brand new. It's probably done to maybe 3,000, no, not even, probably 2,000 kilometers maximum on that turbo, so it's still brand new. A couple of my fuel injectors were a little bit dirty, so I might take them down to Quick Bits and get them to clean them for me, make sure they're okay, make sure that wasn't an issue. But it was running on all cylinders. Everything seems fine. The tops of the pistons are all clean. There's no issues there. There's no movement in them. You just really can't explode these D series engines. They're just amazing. I'm going to end this video off here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. Just like I always say, I'm definitely not a mechanic. I learn everything the hard way, so you guys don't have to. But yeah, you'll notice I did everything in a backwards order. I was just stuffing around and made things harder for myself, and nothing ever works the way I want it to, but that's probably because I don't do it the right way in the first place. But you live and you learn. Putting everything in with a new freshly painted engine bay, with a new freshly built engine, is going to go in meticulously. Coming out, I'm not that worried, to be honest. So you can probably tell I didn't really give two craps. But yeah, I'm going to pack up, call it a night, and get back out here tomorrow and yeah, keep tinkering away. Drop a like on the video and comment below what color you think I should paint the engine bay. The car's now black. The obvious choice would be to paint the engine bay black. My engine is blue. I wanted to order some fluoro yellow spark plug leads and have a bright hot pink engine bay with the blue motor and do that like Miami Vice theme. I think it would look awesome with the black, the blue, the fluoro, yellow, green, like just real 80s it up. Really retro. On the outside, we keep it classy, but just a bit of a party under the bonnet. That was my thoughts. Let me know what you think. And yeah, hopefully by the end of the week, all of this will be out. The engine bay will be clean and I'll be starting to think about what colour to paint it. As always, thanks for watching. take your grubby little fingers, click like, click subscribe, and we'll see ya in the next video.